Okay, everybody, now that we know what standard form is and we know what factored form is, we've gone over the idea of a polynomial equation, and we know what our zero product property is. We're just going to try a couple more of these. So in your guided notes, letter B, we have 2x plus 7 times 2x minus 7 equals 0. Okay, now, once again, I want to know, okay, well, what value can I put in for x that's going to get me 0 when I multiply these two things together? This one, mental math, might be a little bit harder, so I'm going to go straight to my zero product property. So 2x plus 7, that's going to be my quote quote A. 2x minus 7, that's going to be my quote quote B. So A times B equals 0, which means either the first one or the second one has to be 0. So we break it apart, and I'm going to say 2x plus 7 has to be 0, or 2x minus 7 has to be 0. At this point in time, I'm going to solve the equation on the left. I'm going to subtract 7. So 2x equals negative 7. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So x equals negative 7 halves. And at this point in time, we are going to leave that as an improper fraction. I am not going to convert it into a decimal. That is okay. And I'm not going to convert it into a mixed number. That is okay. At this level of math, leave it as an improper fraction. Okay, equation over here on the right, add 7. 2x equals 7. Divide by 2. X equals 7 halves. Same conversation. So our solutions are either negative 7 halves or 7 halves, also called our roots. Now, I'm not going to check both of these for the sake of time, but I am going to check one of them. And the one I'm going to check is I'm going to check the positive 7 halves and see if this actually works in my equation. So up here in my equation, I've got 2 times x, which I'm going to substitute in as 7 halves, plus 7, times 2 times x, which again I'm going to substitute in my 7 halves, minus 7 equals 0. And again, I'm going to put this question mark because I don't know if it actually works. Now, if you have a calculator, use it. If not, I'm going to start here with 2 times 7 halves. On 2 times 7 halves, these 2's are going to cancel, and I'm going to be left with 7. So this first set of parentheses is 7 plus 7. Now, my second set of parentheses, same idea. This 2 is going to cancel with that 2, and I'm going to be left with 7. So 7 minus 7 equals 0, we hope. 7 plus 7 is going to be 14. 7 minus 7 is going to be 0. 14 times 0 is in fact 0. So I know that my first solution, or I'm sorry, my second solution definitely works. Same idea if you go substitute in the negative 7 halves. It's going to end up being 0 times something equals 0. So we're good to go. Letter C. X plus 1 times x minus 3 times x minus 2 equals 0. Well, what's the big deal here? And the big deal is instead of having 2 factors, we now have 3 factors. But it's kind of the same thing. If a times b equals 0, one of them has to be 0. Well, what if a times b times c equals 0? Same idea. One of them has to be 0. So we can still apply the zero product property. X plus 1 has to equal 0, or x minus 3 has to equal 0, or x minus 2 has to equal 0. Something in there has got to go to 0, otherwise we're not going to multiply to 0. On the first one, subtract 1. X equals negative 1. On the second one, add 3. X equals 3. On the third one, add 2. X equals 2. So this one actually has 3 solutions, or you could call them 3 roots. And if you substitute those back in, I mean, if I take a negative 1 and I substitute it right here, negative 1 plus 1 is 0. And 0 times whatever I get over here will give me 0. 3 minus 3 is 0. Well, 0 times anything I get here is going to give me 0. I didn't mention this, but if you're using this zero product property, guess what? Your equation over here better be 0. If there's a 5 right there, this will not work. Letter D. X minus 3 times x minus 9 equals 0. And again, this better be a 0, otherwise the zero product property does not work. It's not called the 7 product property. It's called the 0 product property. Okay, x minus 3 equals 0. X minus 9 equals 0. Add 3. First solution, x equals 3. Add 9. Second solution, x equals 9. This one has 2 solutions or 2 roots. Okay, so we've got 2 factors, x minus 3 and x minus 9. We have 2 solutions. If we look back, we have 3 factors. We have 3 solutions. Okay, moving on to letter E, x minus 1 squared equals 0. Think about that for a minute. Do you remember what happens when we square a quantity or a set of parentheses? And do you remember the conversation I had about you cannot distribute the 2? That's a big no-no. If you remember, that 2 means you have to write it twice, which I'm going to encourage you to do. There is another way to solve this, but for right now, write it twice. That's what it actually means. Now, if you're thinking, okay, I wrote it twice, we should multiply it out or FOIL it. No, because I don't want it in standard form. I just want to solve it. So it's in factored form. So just x minus 1 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. Do you notice it's the same thing twice? So you don't technically have to solve it twice, but we're going to anyway. So my first solution is x equals 1. My second solution is x equals 1. So really the only solution to this is x equals 1. But, later in your mathematical career, we'll look at what that actually means and what is actually going to happen. But technically this guy only has one solution. It's at x equals 1. If you substitute in 1, 1 minus 1 is 0, and 0 to the second power is still 0, so your solution is x equals 1.